Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Proverbs with Paul this Thursday afternoon. And not been so sunny today. Maybe the sun will reappear tomorrow. Proverbs chapter 23, verse 15. My son, if your heart is wise, my own heart also will be glad. My son, what a privilege to be called God's son, God's child, one of God's children. And how do we get to that point where God is able to call us his son? Well, it's true that every human being born is a child of God, therefore a son, daughter of God. But to be called God's son, to be embraced in that way in the family of God, to be reconnected to God in that way, what a wonderful privilege. Not something to simply overlook. We want to value it and appreciate it. But he says, my son, meaning addressing someone that looks like and reflects who he is and what he stands for. He says, my son, he says, if your heart is wise, and the idea of his heart is his spirit. And he says, if your spirit, your heart is wise. And that's the whole point of Proverbs, giving wisdom to those who will be prepared to listen. In one sense, we can make ourselves a child of God by listening to God and taking on board the things that God says, and then implementing those things that we learn from God. So when God gives us instruction, we take on board that instruction, we become wise. And as a result of that, our heart has become wise. Our spirit has become wise, meaning that we now have an extra resource available to us to manage life and all of its situations. We have, as it were, an extra armory working for our good to help us along our way. So he says, my son, if your heart is wise, which means that it could choose to disregard what God is saying. So if means you might not take this on board. If you want, you can choose not to embrace the teachings that I give you, not embrace the things that are precious to me. You can choose not to reflect who I am. And of course, if we do that, then we lose sight of the very wisdom that God wants to give us, and we don't have that extra resource available to us. No matter whether we know it or not, if we don't apply it, then it's no good to us. We need to apply it in order to benefit. It says, my son, my own heart, God's own heart, also will be glad. Do you know you can make God's heart glad by doing what God says? Jesus said it like this. He says that if you love me, you will do the things I say. And doing the things he says isn't because he wants to boss us around. It's because he wants to enrich us so that we can reflect him, so that we can make an impact in his world. We can bring light into the darkness of the people's lives that are around us, including our own. And that brings blessing to God. When we do the right thing, God smiles, God rejoices. The Bible tells us God whistles and rejoices. And that sense of being full of joy because we have made him glad. Isn't that your ambition? Don't you want to make God glad? As a Christian in a relationship with God, we have been invited to share life in all of its fullness. And making God's heart glad is one of the things we can do. Brothers and sisters, enrich this world. Don't demise it or undermine it. Enrich it by being full of God. Thank you for joining me. Be blessed. Have a great afternoon, and I'll see you tomorrow.